Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
This episode is brought to you by Atlassian. Atlassian makes the team collaboration software that powers enterprise businesses around the world, including over 80% of the Fortune 500. With Atlassian's AI-powered software like Jira, Confluence, and Loom, you'll have more time to do the work that matters. In fact, Atlassian customers experience a 25% reduction in project duration per year. Unleash the potential of your team at Atlassian.com. Atlassian.
Hey, it's Lizzie. Just a quick note before we get started. I'm nursing a little bit of a cold, so my voice is a bit scratchy. All right, here's the show. Drew Harwell is a great reporter. He covers tech for The Washington Post, and he's broken all kinds of interesting news. So I'm willing to admit that my first question to him this week was a little random. Drew, what is boxballin'?
Boxballin' is a game that's quite popular on TikTok. You may have seen it being played by Khloe Kardashian, Bill Gates, Tom Brady. It's effectively a bouncy ball that you strap onto your head and you kind of stand in place and you box the ball back and forth and you try and get a high score. It's recorded on your TV. It's a simple little goofy game that, you would probably swipe past a million times on TikTok. And it's also something that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. himself has advertised. He made his own video and did actually fairly well at boxballin'. So it's Robert F. Kennedy Jr., 70-year-old guy, standing in a room surrounded by a group that looks like maybe 20s and 30-year-olds. And he's doing the box ball, and he's standing in front of the TV, boxing the little bouncy ball on his head. He gets a high score, and he just, erupts.
This is boxball and the ideal stocking stuffer. When I'm on the road, I try to use it as often as I can because it keeps up.
It's like influencer spawn con, of which we all are immersed in on the internet. And yet, it's kind of interesting because this is not just any old influencer. This is a guy who may be running American healthcare in a couple weeks, advertising this product to all of us.
Yeah, when I saw the video, I was like, wait, no, you can't do that. Wait, that's not allowed. But I guess those lines are blurring.
Yeah, it's so weird because, we have these popular politicians who are also popular social media stars, and they are kind of adopting these influencer tactics while still being that same politician.
RFK Jr. recorded the boxballin' video a few weeks after dropping out of the presidential race and before President-elect Trump announced him as his choice to run the Department of Health and Human Services. He wasn't in any official job. He wasn't breaking any laws. But still, it was pretty weird.
When we think about politicians in our mind, they should have a totally different mission and goal that is divorced from selling us stuff. It should be like public service, running a government agency, not getting us to buy $30 goofy stocking stuffers, right? So it was such a strange thing to see, and yet it's very emblematic of kind of the new Trump era.
Today on the show, are you ready for the influencer administration? I'm Lizzie O'Leary, and you're listening to What Next TBD, a show about technology, power, and how the future will be determined. Stick around. This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states. The ever-increasing tools professionals are expected to use to improve efficiency are actually causing their work to be fragmented and exhausting. It's also costing your business. Grammarly delivers a consistent communication experience across your organization's ecosystem, so roadblocks at work get unblocked. Best of all, it only takes days to implement, no IT overhead required, so you can unify your team and see results right away. Grammarly unifies your team's voice across platforms. It works seamlessly across over 500,000 web and desktop apps, so all the tools your team uses will work better for your business. When every word your team writes is clear, concise, and on brand, everything gets better. Teams that communicate better with Grammarly report 66% less time spent editing marketing content and 70% improved brand compliance across the company, saving 19 days per year per employee. Equip your team with the gold standard of responsible AI. Join 70,000 teams and 30 million people who trust Grammarly to work faster everywhere they communicate. Go to Grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. Grammarly, enterprise-ready AI. Donald Trump's picks for his administration have always sprung from a certain mold. They look the part, they're good on TV. The women have long hair and wear dresses and lashes. The men swagger and fit an exaggerated version of masculinity. But in the first Trump administration, would-be cabinet members were not regularly hawking products. In fact, there was a micro-news cycle when something like that actually happened.
Kellyanne Conway, who at the time was like one of his top advisors, she went on Fox News and, it was a moment of kind of criticism. And she said,
30 seconds. Go buy Ivanka's stuff is what I would tell. I hate shopping. I'm going to go get some on myself today.
There is that hashtag buy.
She was talking about, President Trump's daughter, Ivanka. She had this fashion line, jewelry line, a lot of it made overseas. And here Kellyanne was telling viewers to go put your money where your mouth is. If you support President Trump, go buy his daughter's swag. And it was a rare moment because, traditionally we have seen there be a very clear firewall between private enterprise, the money we give to businesses, and the people we vote into office.
Flash forward to now. Trump spent his years out of office marketing various Trump-branded items. And the entire culture of digital self-promotion has metastasized. And for his second term, Trump has surrounded himself with people who were already bold-faced names.
A lot of them already have their own cults of personality.
Yeah.
It's people like RFK, who has 3 million TikTok followers, who has this big, core of people who are really into health and fitness and some, more kind of fringe health stuff like raw milk and, vaccine criticism, skepticism. And then you have people like, Dr. Oz, right? Celebrity doctor, known from TV, who Trump named to be, running Medicare and Medicaid. So these are people who already have millions of followers, in many cases already have, their own brand deals, like sponsorship contracts, where you can go onto their social media and see them basically, hawking products at you. And so, that personality has not changed yet. Like they're being named to these public service roles, but they're still fulfilling those contracts. So you went from people who were kind of politicians first, maybe business people, maybe household names, to people who are kind of influencers first and are kind of just hacking politics onto part of their personal brand.
The box ballon ad got taken down from RFK Jr. social media not long after it was first posted. Why?
Yeah, so right after they posted it, it was a little bizarre. And part of what was problematic about it was that when you looked in the caption, there was nothing that said like hashtag ad. Part of the Federal Trade Commission's rules for social media influencers, and there are not a lot of rules for this industry, it's very unregulated, but one of the few regulations is that if you are an influencer, of which RFK qualifies just by virtue of his number of followers, and you endorse a product and are paid for it, you've got to mark that so people aren't just scrolling past it and thinking it's just your personal love for the bouncy ball game. And and that ad didn't have hashtag ad in it, which it's not extremely egregious. These things happen quite often. Whether that was kind of part of why they took it down, they haven't said. I talked to the Boxballin people who said after they posted it that the RFK people told them, yeah, we had signed this contract before we realized he was going to, potentially be going to Washington for this public power. And basically it just wasn't a good look. We just didn't want to keep it up. So there was some recognition there that it was a little bit of an awkward fit. But Boxball, and they had no problem with it, right? They reposted the video even after I talked to them. They posted on TikTok and Instagram, so you can still go onto their Facebook page and see America's potentially next health czar using this private company's product. So it was a weird situation all the way around.
There was also a weird and obviously calculated moment on RFK Jr.'s wife's Instagram. He is married to the actress Cheryl Hines, and she tried to sell her followers on her skincare label while he was behind her, seemingly naked in the shower.
You can't take a shower. I'm doing a video. No, you've got to give me a second. I'm doing a video for Hines and Young. Okay, honey.
Next, we have Dr. Mehmet Oz, Trump's nominee to lead the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Dr. Oz, thanks to Oprah, needs no introduction. Oz has promoted Ozempic and collagen products and is also an advisor for the supplement company iHerb.
iHerb is basically just a big online supplement store. You can go on there, find whatever supplements you want to buy, have them shipped directly to your home. So Dr. Oz, he has a very big, TikTok following, almost 1 million followers. He's on most of the platforms, including Instagram and X. And a lot of what he talks about is, hey, are you feeling stressed about Thanksgiving? Go on to iHerb and buy this special, Asian supplement to make yourself feel better.
There's a lot to track in your diet. I get it. So thank heavens there are multivitamin mineral supplements that can dish up the goodness, and chances are you need one, like those offered from the trusted source, iHerb.
Which is, again, especially weird because this is somebody who Trump has named to run Medicare and Medicaid. These are programs that are extremely influential and important to Americans' health. And these are agencies that, get involved in the purchasing decisions, the financial decisions of how our country spends our money. So, if this is a guy who's telling you to take these specific supplements through this one specific store, are these really the right decisions for all Americans' healthcare, for all our financial spend? And the thing about these conflicts of interest is that even the perception of a conflict is problematic. Even if, he goes into office and never tells anybody to buy supplements off iHerb because now he's a public figure. Like it warps our ability as American citizens, consumers to, appreciate, is he giving it to me straight, or is he just going along with it because iHerb, is paying him as a celebrity endorser?
We should be clear that federal employees are banned from doing this kind of thing when they are in office. They are not supposed to use their office to endorse products. But we're in this weird place now, and I guess I'm trying to parse out what the end goal might be here. Is it to make some money now in this period before, let's assume they're confirmed, that they are confirmed? Or is it, I have these partnerships, then maybe I divest, and then at the end of the administration, they come back to me and I'm even more powerful?
Yeah, I think that's a big question. And I think a lot of this hinges on, like you said, we're just in this liminal space where a lot is happening very quickly. These names are being thrown out very quickly. The inauguration isn't for more than a month. And these people have a level of fame to where they already have these months-long, sometimes years-long promotional relationships that they're just fulfilling because they were fulfilling those beforehand. But you also, like you said, you have to play this out in the long term. Are they going to go in office and potentially still be fulfilling these relationships and in a way that could break the law? Or, after they leave office, could they go right back to those companies or other companies and utilize the stature and the imprimatur that they gained from being a Washington figure to, play out even more endorsement relationships, just really fulfill that influencer dream?
When we come back, will they divest? Won't they divest? If the boss doesn't do it, why should the underlings? It's always nice to get more for less. So here's a life hack that can automatically put some extra cash in your pocket. Discover will automatically double all the cash back you've earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. So you could get some money for this holiday season and get more next holiday season. It pays to Discover. See terms at discover.com/creditcard. It's always nice to get more for less. So here's a life hack that can automatically put some extra cash in your pocket. Discover will automatically double all the cash back you've earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. So you could get some money for this holiday season and get more next holiday season. It pays to Discover. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
When you check out at the pharmacy, you see the journey from idea to medicine, thanks to our intellectual property system, or IP for short. IP safeguards inventions, like a new way to prevent seizures or lower cholesterol. And IP supports competition from other brands, then lower cost generics, which are 90% of prescriptions filled in the US. Innovation, competition, lower costs, thanks to IP. Learn more at phrma.org/IP works wonders.
In the first Trump administration, Trump initially promised to divest from his companies, then said he wouldn't, then said he'd hand over ownership to his sons. I think we still don't know what happens in this coming administration. And it seems like official Washington is in many ways clinging to precedents from a different era, a genteel era where people followed the, ways and mores of what was done before. We're not in that era anymore. So do we have any sense that actually these guys might divest and stop doing, to-camera ads after January 20th?
One thing I think we learned from the first Trump administration, first Trump term, was that a lot of these rules are norms. They're very kind of amorphous norms that have never really been tested, very rarely been enforced. They've just kind of been what's been expected. And, we've had a long history of politicians who have not ever never had kind of that influential side to them really pulling them in that way. But, Donald Trump is obviously a different character. And I will say, he is somebody who He has always really been this way. He has been a self-promoter, self-brander, self-licenser for many decades. In New York, way before the presidency, he was putting his name on steaks, universities, hotels, golf courses. Like, that is completely natural behavior for him. And it's still, and he has been somebody who has been very skilled at adapting his brand to the medium of the time. We saw how big he was on Twitter in the first administration during his first term and his first campaign. And this campaign, we saw that he was actually all over TikTok, right? He had 15 million followers on TikTok. He was still truthing up a storm on Truth Social. And you know, he was very prolific on these kind of bro-y podcasts. He got millions of views on these podcasts that were not traditional media, but that had huge audiences. And, you know, he even called himself the biggest influencer in the world. He really does see himself as not just a politician, but as a celebrity, entertainer, influencer. And so I think he has really kind of shifted the Overton window of acceptability around this kind of behavior.
And everybody in an administration takes their cues from the person at the top.
You know, the people in his administration, they're kind of doing a fraction of what he's doing, and there's not really a lot of backlash about it, right? Like when Matt Gaetz stepped down from consideration for attorney general and within hours started selling videos on Cameo for $500 a pop.
What's up, Deb and Terry? This is Matt Gaetz. I wanted to wish you a very special happy Thanksgiving. You've got a terrific son-in-law, Eric, and I know
there was some, kind of giggling about it, but there wasn't really big, no Republicans were coming out and saying, this is odd, this is trading on your political fame, stop doing this. It was just kind of like, okay, well, that's the way of the world. So, yeah, I think, from the first Trump term, I still remember there was all of these kind of mini dramas at the time around the emoluments clause, right? These very old constitutional edicts about, how politicians could get money and the potentials for conflicts of influence. And there were all these, as we saw during the Trump term, there were all these little scandals that were raised as things that would really torpedo President Trump this time, right? This law is so clear that
this one's the final straw.
Yeah. And of course, he escaped all of them. And, we saw that with emoluments specifically, and, around the time of his involvement in the big DC hotel, where there were all these business and figures and diplomats coming and spending, a lot of money at the hotel to, as critics would say, curry influence. There was a lot of talk about it, and there were Democratic, reports written about it, and there were, pieces of paper handed around, but there was really never any kind of big punishment. There was never any clear enforcement that changed the behavior. And so the behavior really didn't change. And this time, I think it could be the same. We still have these institutions and these agencies that look at things like this. We still have the Federal Trade Commission, again, like I said, that looks at how influencers comport themselves online. We still have, the Office of Government Ethics, right, that requires certain disclosures. So I don't think that stuff is going away. But if the guy at the top is, adopting these behaviors, and a lot of the people are following him, and there's no clear, set of rules to define, the TikTok, Instagram, SpawnCon, all of these concepts were obviously never in the Constitution. These are things we're just kind of making up as we go along.
But even beyond things like SpawnCon, the idea of influencing has always been about connecting with audiences, whether you're a direct-to-consumer brand or a politician, which is why it makes sense that the Trump campaign relied so heavily on podcasts this year. That might continue in the administration. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have promised Dogecast, a podcast that is allegedly going to chronicle the duo's slashing of the government budget.
So Vivek Ramaswamy, very popular right-wing bomb thrower, former pharmaceutical executive. He runs his own podcast right now called The Truth Podcast. And both Ramaswamy and Musk have talked about, they really want to savage the government budget. They want to trim whole agencies. They want to slash spending by a third. They want to cut trillions of dollars out of the government spending. And, the idea that those would be kind of played out in, grisly detail on a weekly podcast. It's just, again, it's something we have never seen before. I think part of that is interesting from a Ramaswamy kind of self-promotional aspect. But two, we also have to realize that this is great political messaging potentially for the White House, right? The White House, the Trump White House, the Trump administration, they do want to be seen as being tough on the budget. Their feeling is they were voted in with these promises of restraining the deep state, really pulling in all the spending. And here are going to be these two, very vocal warriors laying out exactly how they're fulfilling that mandate.
This political evolution isn't solely on the right. AOC and Bernie Sanders, for example, have gotten very good at social media and the whole new media thing. But to be clear, they are not shilling for companies.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference. They're not making bank on these on this attention so far. You have AOC, streaming herself, playing Stardew Valley, playing video games while also talking about Medicare policy. You have Bernie Sanders out there, posting a lot.
I guess he did advertise his book.
That's true.
That's one.
Yes,
yep.
That's true. They do have books. They do have rally speeches. But you haven't seen AOC, shilling for ire, I'll say. So that's the big change. I mean, and again, like it's natural to expect these political figures to be using social media because we are all using social media because that's where the people are, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But it's when you get to the point where there's a private player involved whose goal is to sell swag to the same audience. So yeah, I think that's the biggest change.
Where does this end? Is there some future where it's like, hey, it's my mom's birthday. I'm going to buy a cameo from the President of the United States. Like, that feels so deeply wrong. But I wonder if it's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I don't know where it does end. And actually, one of the interviews I did for this that I found really interesting was this professor who was talking about this idea of influencer creep. Like, in the old times of only a couple of years ago, we saw influencers as this kind of niche group who was all about online clout, who did all of this kind of like self-promotional cringe stuff, and we all kind of laughed about it. But they were really good at building an audience, getting attention, promoting themselves. And those tactics have sort of moved to expand traditional media players, like people who never had to do those influencer tactics before, but now are starting to adopt them because that's just the way of the world and because it works. It's possible that we just reach a point where this all just feels very crude and off-putting. As you can see from Matt Gaetz's Cameo page, there are a lot of people who paid him $500 for a 2-minute video asking for happy birthday. But these things have peaks and valleys too. And some of this I expect is kind of the novelty factor, and whether we'll still be wanting that level of intimacy and promotional sponsorship from our politicians. I don't think that's really settled either. We may, I think some of this operates as a sine wave, and sometimes our tastes as an electorate kind of shifts to a point where it's like, okay, maybe just go handle Medicare right now. Like, don't stop selling me, fish oil, and just like go back to doing your job.
Drew Harwell, it's always such a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Drew Harwell is a tech reporter for The Washington Post. And that's it for our show today. What Next TBD is produced by Evan Campbell, Patrick Fort, Shayna Roth, and Ethan Oberman. Our show is edited by Paige Osborne. Alicia Montgomery is Vice President of Audio for Slate, and TBD is part of the larger What Next family. And if you like what you heard today, the single best way to support us is to join Slate Plus. You get all your Slate podcasts ad-free. Plus, it makes a really nice holiday gift. All right, we'll be back on Sunday with an episode about breaking free from the Spotify algorithm. I'm Lizzie O'Leary. Thanks so much for listening.
Are you a financial advisor considering the independent RIA model and wondering where to start? Start with Schwab Advisor Services. They've helped thousands evaluate the full range of options and can help you determine your best path forward. Start your journey today at advisorservices.schwab.com/paths.